Good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Iori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. Okay, so there we have it on the, international scene, so to speak, regional scene. Nigeria's President Tinubu has been re-elected for a further one-year term. This is no doubt so that he can, further oversee initiatives that were put forward in his time, and in any case, his peers voted him. It's not the first time that it has happened.
It's little, but I can hear.
Twice, where two presidents taking an extra term. But here we are. Our guest this morning, we'll also be talking with our guest this morning, Ambassador Elijah Onyema in our Abuja studio. We'll also be chatting with the ambassador about Nigeria's Samoa deal and the sparks that it has made amidst the whole LGBTQ concerns. The Minister of Information has said there's nothing like that. We'll be hearing from the ambassador. So a fine morning to you, to Ambassador Elijah Onyema.
A very good morning to you, Uncle Yuri. It's my pleasure being on your studio once again.
We're delighted to have you, sir. Okay, now first of all, let's start off with the re-election of President Tinubu by his peers. One, he put himself forward for the election. It is so that we hear that it can happen like that. So I'll come back and speak to you about that. But let's first of all put a package out there before we can, start the conversation.
Authority of Heads of State and Government at a closed-door meeting elected President Bola Tinubu to continue as the chair of the authority, which he accepts. President of Senegal was also given a mandate to mediate between ECOWAS and the three withdrawing countries. At the end of the session, the president of the ECOWAS Commission spoke with journalists on the resolution of the authority on funding of the activation of the standby force.
The experts from our Ministries of Finance will convene within the next 3 months to decide and to assess the various possibilities of raising internal resources to fund the peace and security operations that the community will undertake. There is no specific formula yet. Let us wait for the outcome of the expert consultation.
He also spoke about the state of the eco currency of the region and other issues.
Time frame given for the launch of the single currency is 2027, provided the various convergence criteria are met. The challenge is meeting those convergence criteria, and member states are encouraged to work on those criteria. So the time frame for now is 2027, and until the heads of state change that time frame, we will go by that.
On humanitarian efforts, the president says ECOWAS has made a provision of about $9 million to support displaced people in the region and another $4 million to support countries hosting some of the displaced persons. Moyo Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, thank you very much, Moya. So, as you could see, there were other issues that were discussed, but I imagine that principle among them would have been the re-election of President Tinubu by his peers to chair the authorities of the participating countries. Okay, Ambassador Elijah, any surprise there? Because I was reading that usually this kind of a thing happens if there's agreement of peers and if the person whose election is to be, how do they put it now, to be extended or to be repeated, it'll be because he did make the request. So in the first instance, our president did put himself in there first?
Not very clear if it was his decision to seek for re-elections. But whatever be the case, I think I will start first of all by congratulating the president for being re-elected into that position once again. The first election was on 9th July 2023. in Guinea-Bissau in the wake of the coup d'etats, within the Sahel states, even very close to us, our neighbors here, Niger, and you must say that the presidency, the leadership of Mr. President took off, within the sub-region on a very rocky start, So it was about providing leadership and finding a way of addressing the challenges within the sub-region. And of course, you know that the prime pillar, one of the prime pillars of the president's foreign policy is democracy, and Nigeria's support for democracy across the world, and of course starting from our region. And he had taken that mantle of leadership at that time, and there was also a special envoy that was appointed at the time, which is the president of Togo, President Nassimbe Yadema, to negotiate with these countries that have this coup d'etat. And that, if you begin to access what has happened, yes, there were sanctions that were placed on the countries. Yes, they responded by saying that they were pulling out of ECOWAS and having their own Confederation of Sahel States, which is what they've done. ECOWAS actually pulled back on the sanctions, and then after a couple of consultations with the leaders. And at this point in time, invitations have been sent out to them, but we must also note that the decision of the three presidents, or the three nations that had coup d'etat, that's that of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, were actually against the provisions of the ECOWAS protocol, which gave a certain timeline for you to be able to pull out, and the responsibilities, that you must still carry even within the same period that you had given notice. Of course, ECOWAS, responded by lifting the sanctions and then, of course, extending invitations to these countries. It remains to be seen what their position is, but of course, we had in the news that they had gone ahead to sign, the agreement that will allow the three of them form a confederation. Of course, at this point in time, we've always believed that it has to be politics, it has to be diplomacy, it has to be dialogue that can resolve this kind of issues, because these have become a political problem. And upon President Tinubu's re-election yesterday, I believe that the idea behind it is because it's also done relatively well, creating stability and, of course, providing direction on how to manage these issues from when they started up until now. So credit must be given to the president. And I believe that his colleagues would have looked at the issues and felt like there would be a need to continue in that line. And that's probably the reason why they would have consented. It doesn't even matter, even if he had said even if it was himself that put himself up for re-election, if his colleagues obviously didn't think, because remember that ordinarily these things are, the presidency of that position moves between the Anglophone and the Francophones. So the expectation originally is that it's supposed to actually go to one of the Francophone countries. Yes. But of course, yes, the leaders, rightly made a decision to ask President Tinubu to continue. It's actually an indication of responsibility that he has also done well. And of course, so many things that he has started, they expect him to drive to a logical conclusion. Indeed. And he should be given the chance to oversee it. Well, when you look at it, as you put it, the president, in steering the group, he's received much commendation, but for the fact that he has emphasized democracy and security. In fact, his insistence on democracy probably, led into some sort of sticky paths, but nevertheless, the president knew, when to sort of, chill a bit, to say in undiplomatic language, and things were reverted. Even as we speak, you just mentioned the president of Togo. I believe that he and the newly elected president of Senegal, have been appointed as special envoys by the president to further broker peace and see what could be done to bringing those brother countries, is it sister country now? Countries seem to take the pronoun of a woman. Those are other countries in Africa back into the fold. Yes, I think what has happened is a step in the right direction. At this point in time, you remember, because it's important to understand what has happened in the course of the first tenure of Mr. President. Yes, these coups happened, but then again, there were also progress that was also made and witnessed within the sub-region. And a very clear example, two of them are the elections in Senegal, where the president had actually wanted to perpetuate himself to power and to conduct elections somewhere, I think December 16th or thereabouts. But there was pressure. The institutions of the country, particularly the Supreme Court, made a decision. The president also, as the leader within the continent, also sent envoys to Senegal to ensure that there is an election which brought forth the new president, President Faye. And of course, there is no better person that can lead this charge, the dialogue and the conversation at this point in time, than him, who has just been elected, a democratic president, in Senegal. Remember, Senegal is one of the countries that is yet to witness a military coup within the sub-region. So yes, that in itself, the president actually asked our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Tuga, to actually work with him in that dialogue and then let us see what happens from there. Because what it means is that ECOWAS is still having an open door. They still have an open door of negotiation. They still, they will still do whatever they need to do to ensure that these countries are able to come back, because it's actually in everybody's interest that they come back. So what has also happened, again, within that same time frame, is that there was also an election which was also, which took place in Liberia. A very good example, a sitting president, John Ware lost the election, and then, of course, had to help. He did a lot in ensuring that there was a smooth handover from one democratic, government to another. There was also an attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau, where the president also stepped in and sent envoy to be able to assure the country of Nigeria's support. So clearly, within this period, yes, we've witnessed this, coup d'etat. Remember, ECOWAS is 15 member states, and 3 of them have, were the ones that pulled out. But there's actually a 4th one, which is Guinea-Conakry, that also has had a coup, but they actually didn't pull out from ECOWAS. And we must also have the patience to go back and understand the real issues. The real issues is that when political leaders begin to amend the constitution to be able to perpetuate themselves in power, that's actually what you can refer to as a civilian coup. That's actually why when you see these coups happen, people begin to think that that's a reprieve. People begin to, support it, quote and unquote, initial support, which obviously down the line, you will find out that, it's not as good as what they thought, because, you begin to look at issues of human rights. You begin to look at issues of right of expression. You begin to look at several other issues that will always come up, which is the reason why the president has made it very clear that there will always be a support, because no matter how bad democracy is, it can actually not, not be compared to autocracy. So clearly, from all indications, it's very clear that there were progresses that were made in the last 1 year, and that's probably the reason why other member states have asked the president to continue to put that leadership. And the president has actually selected a new person who is just a new president, President Faye from Senegal, to say, lead this cause on behalf of ECOWAS, work with our Foreign Affairs Minister, Ambassador Tuga, and then report both to the ECOWAS Commission as well as to the president on what is going on. And, it's what the president have done is to ensure that the horse has been taken to the stream. So whether or not the horse drinks the water is a different kettle of fish altogether. But the horse is already there. There's a horse and there's a stream. So we are hoping that our brothers will reconsider their position and, of course, understand the challenges that are there. When Brexit happened, when the UK pulled out of the European Union, what it meant was that even the UK citizens that were working in Brussels, in European Union Commission, had to, they had to all pull out and get back to their countries. Nigeria, Abuja here hosts, ECOWAS Commission. The secretariat is here in Abuja. There are citizens of Niger Republic that are staffers there. There are citizens of Burkina Faso and Mali that are staffers there. So some of the long-term implications of these are some of the things that we believe that the presidents of these countries will consider because the region is better united. The region, once we come together, it means that we can do a lot within ourselves. Yes, I agree with the fact that there is a lot of challenges here and there, but it's actually the responsibility of political leaders within the sub-region to show leadership. The idea of amending the constitution to be able to ensure that you're in power for as long as possible should no longer. ECOWAS must have zero tolerance to country presidents that keep on amending constitution to be able to perpetuate themselves in power. And that's where the problem starts from. That's why we have issues of climate change. That's why we have economic issues, because, of course, you know that our region is one of the poorest within the world. That's why we have our young people that are constantly migrating, because, quite a lot of them are migrating through the Sahel, and some of them are dying in the high sea, day in, day out. So clearly, the political leadership within the sub-region must do what they need to do, which is to provide governance. And in provision of governance, we are expected to have dividends of democracy. And once people begin to have dividends of democracy, I believe that that is actually the essence of having the commission, because it's actually an economic community, which means that there should actually be economic benefits that are coming to the citizens of the sub-region.
And maybe that brings us to the issue of the fight against terrorism. The president, the chairman of ECOWAS, our president, two offices, the same person, he believes that we as a body, as a group, as a bloc, have to finance the wherewithal to be able to withstand and pull off the putting down of all these fires, these insurgency fires that we see all over, these terrorism. I don't know how well do you think that's going to, because when he himself said that there's a shortage of funds, and he's well aware of it, but he still says we have the obligation to pay our dues to ECOWAS. And I don't know if you think that is, but just before I land on that and get your commentary on that, let me take a caller that has come in. Good morning, Mr. George in Ikeja.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to the young ambassador.
Okay.
Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I would have been surprised if the ECOWAS heads of state did not re-elect the president. Because as soon as he came in, he brought life into the community. And you see how democracy became the norm in the talk around ECOWAS. That didn't happen before. And for it to sustain for another 1 year is a wise decision they are taking. So I wish them luck.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I want to ask the ambassador this question about this raging controversy on Samoa. And
We're going to come to it. I assure you. I said it at the top of the program. We're going to come to it.
Okay,
but let's come out of this, and then we'll come to that whole Nigeria-Samoa, deal.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. So I was asking you about the president, admonishing, the region that we need to be up to scratch with our dues to ECOWAS. When there's money involved, is there sometimes a foot dragging as well?
Well, thank you. Again, this is where leadership has to come in, because the challenge with the commission is not just about introducing a standby force. The issue is about funding. And it's also about priority as well. Nigeria even has been owing, and of course, one good news that came out of this meeting yesterday was that Nigeria committed to pay its outstanding debts, which is the ECOWAS.
It said it was going to lead by example.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And quite a lot of countries haven't been paid. If you follow what has been going on, countries like Cape Verde haven't paid for a very, very long time. I'm not even sure if they've ever paid at all. So clearly, it's about funding. But I also think that we need to be a bit careful as well, because, if you go back to where we had the ECOMOG, it's always a system where this thing starts, and of course, the secretariat is here in Nigeria, then it becomes a Nigerian responsibility. Most of the countries won't do what they are supposed to do. But clearly, democracy and security were the issues that the president was driving at. And clearly, I understand the need, because having a standby force is clearly to ensure that wherever we have issues, this standby force can actually step in and find a way to bring some level of sanity around that region. But I also think that we need to tread very cautiously. As a nation, we have got quite a lot of issues that we're dealing with at this point in time. We have a lot of economic challenges that we are focusing on, just trying to get our acts together. So I think, the wise decision is to, first of all, pay up debts. And if the funding that is available can carry out, can carry the activities of having a standby force that can always step in the events whenever there's a need for that to happen, then that's fine. But honestly, from the point of view of the president, there's a need to have that because when, insurgency, this is also one of the most terrorized sub-region in the world as of today. So there is a need for us to have some high degree of preparedness in responding to these issues. It's not just when they happen, you begin to respond. Sometimes it's good to prepare ahead of time and wait, but again, it's a matter of priority, and I believe that we must ensure that we are not overstretching ourselves. We must ensure that whatever we are doing, and there's no better person to take that decision than Mr. President, and ensuring that we are not, stretching even our military. There must be something we can do to continue to ensure that whenever the need for this arises, that there will actually be some level of responses that will come from all of the countries, not just a Nigerian thing. Let it not just be that it's Nigeria again, Nigeria forces, Nigeria funding, etc., etc.
Okay. Sani Adenuga in Port Harcourt. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the ambassador.
Thank you very much, Mr.
First and foremost, I would like to say congratulations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his re-election as ECOWAS chair. However, it also needs to be stated that the fact that the president avoided conflict, especially with our nearest neighbors, I think in this ECOWAS time of his, I think he has made a great effort. And that needs to be really emphasized because, for instance, again, we have Nigerians who are our cousins, our brothers, who are relations in this part of the country. Part of Nigeria, the time there was supposed to be heightened tension. Of course, this is understood. I don't happening somewhere. It's a very difficult balance. But we need to say a big word unto him for avoiding conflict with our nearest neighbor. And we hope that in the next 1 year, going forward, future leaders will take example from that and we look inward rather than prioritizing interests of international parties who have their own interests beyond our own. And I think that's what I would say at this point in time. Wish him all the best and good health as we get on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sani Adenuga, calling in. Sani Adenuga is chairman of BOOT political party in Nigeria. Ambassador, I think I should take a break now, but we'll be right back and we'll continue the conversation.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and governments to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest is Ambassador Elijah Onyagba, former ambassador to Burundi. we've been looking at the re-election of Mr. President as the chairman of the regional body. And by all accounts, Mr. President has done quite well. He's been very, very deft. There was a delicate moment when we had said that we would, whatever it took, we would take to this issue. That was in Mr. President expressing his utmost distaste for any contradiction of democracy. But again, with diplomatie and finesse, Mr. President sort of pulled back when the time came. We've spoken about that look, in the interest, first of all, he was the listening president. The National Assembly here sort of withheld support for the action. And if you remember, there are quite a number of states, northern states, I think up between 6 and 9 of them, the number eludes me now, that are directly bordering Niger. And there was concern there that, hey, there are relations here. So all of that, I dare say that Mr. President did indeed get kudos when it was decided to sort of shelve that action. And in the fullness of time, all the sanctions, well, yeah, just about all of the sanctions were reversed. Okay, so congratulations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on his re-election by his peers into the group. He's as the chairman for a further year of the Economic Community of West African States Authority. Now, the other thing that's been in the news, especially towards the end of the week and right into now, is Nigeria having signed a commerce, is it a commerce sort of an agreement? It's been referred to as Nigeria's Samoa deal. And that has sparked a lot of controversy because it was supposed to be about benefits in terms of trade and economics. But then, allegedly, embedded deep in the midst of the small print of that particular agreement were attitudes towards the LGBTQ, society, community that are totally alien to Nigeria and its ways and indeed its laws. So therefore, talking about the Constitution, and that was reported to have been signed by a minister of the Federal Republic. Now, the minister has said no, that is not the case. The Minister of Information has since spoken, saying that indeed it didn't happen. Now we have a sterling opportunity with we're speaking with Ambassador Elijah Anyagba to get his commentary on the matter. Mr. Ambassador, have you been able to examine the issue, and what are your findings as to whether Nigeria might have mistakenly, since everybody's denying that it happened now, might mistakenly have signed us up for a thing that indeed endorses LGBTQ kind of life, same-sex marriage and the rest?
Thank you very much. The Samoa agreement has been in the news lately, with accusations back and forth. I think a couple of dailies reported it. And then the Minister of Information alongside with the Minister of Budget and Planning also responded. But here is the issue. In diplomacy, you can relate either on a bilateral level or at a multilateral level. And what has happened, bilateral actually means between just one country and another, while multilateral refers to a group of countries coming together. And over the years, there had always been a very good cooperation between the OACP countries and the European Union. I remember this Samoa agreement. Samoa is the name of a country, by the way, before people begin to think that it's an acronym for something else. Samoa is the name of a country. It's actually a Caribbean country. And before the Samoa agreement, there was actually the Cotonou agreement, which was basically an agreement that, laid out framework for cooperation between the European Union and the ACP countries before now, the African, Caribbean, and the Pacific. But right now, we now call it's actually this Samoa agreement that was, I think it started the negotiation started in 2018, I believe. That's actually what succeeded the original agreement, which was the Cotonou agreement. But what is this about, really? There's now the OACP, Organization of African Pacific Caribbean States, that has, it's just a combination of a lot of African countries that are within the Pacific, the Caribbean, and African countries coming together. And there are meant to be about 79 member states or thereabouts, and trying to find a cooperation framework that will allow them to cooperate with the European Union states, which the EU is about 27 member states. And in all of this, agreements, it's always a difficult thing to go through agreement at multilateral level, be it at the African Union, be it even at the sub-region. You see, sometimes even to get the protocol or to amend the few issues within the protocol, it's always a difficult thing because every country is actually expected to go through these agreements and then get back to their country and then get the buy-in of some of the times, it passes through legislation before you eventually get, your signatories to go and append their signature to the agreement. So clearly, what has happened here is that Nigeria has signed the Samoa agreement. And they are looking at the economic benefits and other benefits that are likely to come to the country on the account of that. And from the explanation of the Minister of Budget and Planning as well as, the Minister of Information is there to provide us, day-to-day, real-time, correct, valid information about what Nigeria has gone into. And basically, they are saying that there are about over 200 areas of cooperation that is provided for in that agreement. Issues of climate change, issues of good governance, issues on health, issues of peace and security, among other areas that Nigeria has signed into to be able to get a benefit. And what is the interest of the Minister of Budget and Planning? It's also because there could also be some level of funding that can actually be tapped into that can help us, drive our economic policies at the domestic level. So yes, I understand. There is also issues of human rights there, as well, because human rights is a bit, is not just as straightforward as it sounds. There are complex issues that are involved as far as human rights are concerned. But here is the issue. It is important for Nigerians to also know that in 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan signed the anti-same-sex, marriage rights into law, meaning that Nigeria have got, because of the cultural nature, the religious issues, and the kind of people that we are, there are things that we have already said no to. There are provisions and all kinds of punishments that is associated with whoever that is found guilty of, going against, the provisions of that act. So clearly, I think that Nigerians need to understand that we already have that provision, and federal government have come out clearly to state that that provision, the law we have, cannot, the Samoa agreements cannot allow for the practice of any antithetical practice that is against the people of Nigeria, the culture of Nigeria, the religions of Nigerians. And the law within the country. I think that point has been made very clearly, for Nigerians to understand by the people responsible. The Minister of Information is in charge of information in the country. And I'm sure they've gone through the agreement very well before they have actually put up that defense. So I don't think this is a matter that we need to overflog. In my opinion, we should... I believe that agreement should be made an open document so that everybody can actually see. And the assurance is that if you go through that document, there is nowhere in that document that talked about the federal government support for LGBTQ rights in Nigeria. Right. And that point is made very clearly. And some people also mentioned some amount of money that is also available for Nigerians to draw on, based on that agreement. And the federal government is also saying that it is actually not in the agreement as well. In multilateralism, it's important that every country comes together to look at the issues. And then I'm sure that Nigerians and, of course, the relevant agencies that are expected to review this document have done a very good review before they went ahead to sign that agreement. And I actually believe that Nigeria is a very sensitive, state with respect to LGBTQ. And I do not think that federal government will get involved in anything that will, begin to affect the sensitivities of Nigerians as far as LGBTQ rights are concerned.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Now to apologize to Otumba Adebo, who called in from Abeokuta. I believe we must have lost him by now because it was quite a while ago. But I couldn't put him on because I didn't want to interrupt the response that was coming from the ambassador. Otumba Adebo.
Yeah.
Good morning. You are still there, sir. Thank you very much for holding on.
I waited for almost 10 minutes.
I'm so sorry. It was because that answer, I didn't want to truncate it. But what did you want? What did you want to say, sir?
I want to talk on the ECOWAS chairmanship of...
Okay, but your television set needs to be on the 0 level, mute. So that we can hear only your voice and not the feedback.
Yes, I've gone far from it.
Okay. Okay.
President Tinubu, congratulations to him for the second term.
Okay.
But what is most important for the ECOWAS president ahead of this is that they should follow the democratic rules to the letter. No third term, no fourth term, no sit tight, and they should observe rule of law. Otherwise, the military would intervene, and that is why they are intervening, because the democratic system is not thorough. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Otumba Adebo. Let me just say that again. I didn't imagine that you would be so supportive as to stay on the line for about 10 minutes to say your piece. Thank you once again, sir. And I hope you realize why I couldn't interrupt the ambassador. He had started on an important subject that is catching the attention of all Nigerians. But as the ambassador has said, in relation to the subject matter of Nigeria's Samoa deal, you know, the officials, first of all, the person who signed, and then the Minister of Information, these are credible sources of information, and they have said it's not what people think. And then again, the ambassador was good enough to give us the, you know, intricacies of a bilateral deal, and what was the other one the ambassador said? Multilateral. Multilateral. It could be multilateral, it could be bilateral, but that in any case, where the ambassador landed was that there can be nothing in that document that would have been signed that would enable anything to happen that will go against the laws of the country. So the laws will be paramount. If, as the ambassador was stating again, for a very commonly known fact in Nigeria, we have zero tolerance for all issues LGBTQ. This has been much to the annoyance of the West, but we don't care. The attitude has been assumed. The ambassador, the diplomatic community might not put it like that, so we don't care, but that is the effect of it. There is no quarter for this kind of a lifestyle, even though it can cost. The U.S., in short, the West generally sees it as a human rights issue. Well, we have our laws, and our laws say that there is no tolerance for that kind of a thing. So a lot of people that have been wanting to comment on it, if Mr. George is out there listening, I hope this position is satisfactory, that the laws of Nigeria cannot be breached by any agreement purportedly signed to the contrary of any one thing. But then the ambassador also explained that this is a very intricate thing, with multilateralism, so many different laws, so many different agreements, so many different countries. Everybody has to study it and pick out what's in their own interest. It's not possible, as some people are alleging, that, Mr. Ambassador, that maybe a sort of just taking a cursory look at it, or assuming that this was like any other one, they had missed out on that point. And if they had seen it, for example, that, wait a minute, this supports LGBTQ and all of that, do you see a case where Nigeria might have declined to have signed that on account of having noticed that there's something that goes against a great national thrust in the country?
No, what is important here at this level of conversation is that this agreement from the minister's speech, I listened to both ministers when they were speaking, and after the agreement is signed, each country is also expected to provide clarification or to issue a declaration as to what are the conditions for their signing. So I believe that, and the minister actually made the point very clearly to say that. Yes, after the signing. After,
not before.
Yes.
Not before.
Yeah. No, not before. Yes, yes, absolutely. You know, so I believe very clearly that the ministers have provided the kind of information that I believe is authentic at this particular point in time. Like I said, granted, issues related to human rights are very complex. And
Yes.
to that extent, yes, that could also raise some concerns. But the federal government of Nigeria, through the ministers, have made it very clear to say that we have a law in this country that was signed, that was enacted in 2014, and it's still valid. It hasn't been repealed at this particular point in time. And they made it very clearly that our Samoa agreement cannot override or should not actually come ahead of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the position on that is actually very clear. But again, the minister also said that if you go through the agreements line by line, that there's actually nothing that relates to the promotion of LGBTQ rights in that agreement. And again, I also pointed out to the fact that there was also a conversation around a certain amount of money, about 150 billion, that was the reason why Nigeria signed onto the agreement. And the minister also refuted that to say, even though there is actually some level of benefits that can come economically, but even that number is also not clearly stated in that agreement as well. So we are waiting, Nigerians are waiting for further clarifications on this, for declarations to be issued, so that we can actually put to bed concerns that Nigerians have with respect to this. Because, like I said, this is a heterogeneous country, a heterogeneous state that have got, that can be very touchy about some of these issues. So I believe that it is the responsibility of federal government, which they have done now, to continue to provide clarity and provide more information for Nigerians to actually understand what is going on at every particular point in time. But so far, so good. The ministers have debunked that information, and I stand with them as far as this Samoa agreement is concerned.
Okay. Mr. Mohammed in Abuja, good morning to you, sir. Thank you for holding on.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make and contribute my own quota to this LGBT clause in that Samoa agreement.
Yes.
What people are, more especially in the north, what they are saying is that the lawyer that exposed that clauses 9, 8, 9, and 10, because I watched it directly in channels before this argument, before the World Conference held between the Minister of Budget and Information, telling people that those clauses they are not part of. People are suspecting that they have expunged that clauses before that World Conference. So that is the argument we are in now. But what I want the President to know is that this is Muslim ticket. They campaign on Muslim ticket, and the northern part of Nigeria voted for him vehemently just to support him. He should not delve into that issue, please. Because Jonathan was approached 2014, he refused. Now the other side guy said that if Jonathan cannot agree on this, why did the Muslim ticket agree to sign on this? Even though we have not seen the signing directly, but what we are saying is that the President should be careful. Please, he should make Nigeria proud. The way we voted for him, we campaigned for him tirelessly, we support him. He should not disappoint us. More especially the issue of and how people are hungry, the hardship is too much. Is now making people not to believe in the government again. Even the ministers that spoke on that day, on this World Conference, nobody in the north, nobody believed those guys again. So please let the President take charge of his government. He should not allow those people to mislead people and then mislead his government, please. Let him take charge and speak to Nigerians. Please, that is my appeal. Thank you and have a nice day. Indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. We wish you the same. Well, Ambassador Onyema has said that, I beg your pardon. Ambassador Onyema has said that maybe we should leave it at where it is at now. We've had both the Minister of Information and the Minister of Budget speak on this whole issue, and the assurance is that it is indeed not so. The fear that is being expressed, there is no reason for it. And it's probably, as the ambassador suggested, it's possible to overflog this particular horse, and there was no need for that because we have the good information. How higher can you get than the Minister of Information, for example, and indeed the minister who was involved in it? The curiosity for me, though, was when the ambassador assured that, it is after this signing that you now come and, scrutinize it and bring a microscope to it and see what is what. Maybe not being a diplomatic professional, one would have thought that surely it should have been before so that these flags could have been seen.
No. Uncle Yori, sorry. Let me come in, please. Let me make this clarification, and I think it's important that I make the clarification.
Okay.
Okay? Yes. What I said clearly, it's not, this agreement has been there for a very long time. The directorate in charge of this is IOD, International Organizations Department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Nigerians don't just sign an agreement. Agreements, before it's signed, have a procedure that it goes through. Sometimes Ministry of Justice also gets involved. Sometimes other ministries that, in fact, more often than not, you can even have an interministerial committee that is set up to look at every sector of the agreement before it's eventually signed. So it was not a blind signing that we did. But you cannot start issuing a declaration or explaining the basis for your entrance into an agreement before you enter into that agreement. Nigeria have studied this agreement very well and was comfortable with the provisions before it went ahead to sign. But there's also a provision there that you can now make a declaration and begin to educate your people on the framework for implementation. That's what I was referring to, that you can actually do that after you have signed the agreement. You cannot begin to talk to people or to talk to your country on the framework for implementation for an agreement that you have not consented to. So that's the point. That's the clarity I just wanted to make. So it is not that you start to scrutinize the agreement after you have signed. No, not at all. You scrutinize the agreement, agree to every clause therein, and then you sign. But there is also another level, which is now the framework for implementation of that agreement, which you have to also come to the table again to, like I said, diplomacy at the multilateral level is very complex. So these issues are very clear, and I believe that the federal government of Nigeria are adequately informed, and they are adequately, in a position where they know clearly what they are doing under the provisions of this Samoa agreement. So we are also waiting, because it's about information now. Nigerians are asking for more information, so that clarity needs to be made. But you cannot begin to clarify. You can't begin to say, okay, this is what we are going to get. This is that and that. All of the implementation protocol and procedures will follow after you have signed onto the agreement. So we expect further clarifications from government as far as that Samoa agreement is concerned. But the clarity on the fact that we have not signed onto an agreement that supports LGBTQ rights, that's the position of the Minister of Information, who is very qualified to make this clarification as far as federal government and the issue regarding Samoa agreements are concerned.
Okay. Now we have just a couple of minutes more, and I had wanted to bring up this subject matter. I don't know if you are at liberty to comment on it, and that's the issue of appointment of ambassadors. Thus far, it would seem that in this administration, there haven't been as many appointments as might have been given the same length of time. Does that strike you as about correct? And as I said, are you at liberty to speak on these kind of matters, being an ambassador yourself?
No. What I can say is that I think it's important that Nigerians know that ambassadors serve at the pleasure of the president. Clearly, you don't serve because you want to be an ambassador. Ambassadors generally serve at the pleasure of the president. And I believe that the president will appoint ambassadors when he feels the time is right. And I know that I'm sure sooner than later, something is going to happen in that direction. But clearly, the commander-in-chief of a country is the person that takes this decision. And I know that there will be some movement in that regard sooner than later.
Okay, I suppose, yeah. So we'll have to leave it at that. Appointments to ambassadorial positions are made at the pleasure of the president, and in the fullness of time, when it is right, such appointments will indeed be announced. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba, former ambassador to Burundi, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
All right, then. So we're going to leave the program there. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.